Hello, this is the first video in a series of videos that I'll be making for visualizing and plotting data using the Julia programming language. More specifically, we'll be looking at the Plots.jl package, which serves as the standard go-to plotting package in Julia. So on my screen, you'll see that I have the Plots.jl documentation pulled up. This is very well documented, and I am appreciative of all the work that's gone into making this documentation the way it is. And if you scroll down, which there'll be a link to this, this documentation in the description below, you will see beautiful plots. You'll see animations, you'll see heat maps, three-dimensional plots, and you'll see what I would call just pretty plots. And in this series, I hope to cover most of these concepts so that those of you that are transitioning from Python to Julia will have some type of educational content to serve as a starting point. I might not go into the details that you want, but you can always drop a comment below if you'd like to know more, and I'll look into it. Also, if you like my description of this topic, please give me a like and/or subscribe down below. Now, I will be using VS Code for this series. It's a little bit different from my previous videos in that I typically will have used notebooks in the past. Because I want to change things up and because I'm starting to like the layout of VS Code more, that's what I'll be using for this series. In other series on my channel, I'll use Jupyter notebooks and I'll use Pluto notebooks. But for this one, VS Code, which means that you'll have to install the Julia extension for VS Code. And I'll provide a useful link for you down below describing on how you get VS Code set up for Julia. So you can see I have VS Code set up right now or opened, and I have a plots tutorials folder that I've opened up. I'm going to go ahead and make a new file in here, and I'm going to call this plots1.jl. So this is the first video in the series, so plots1.jl. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say using plots. This will give me access to all of the functions that are inside of the plots.jl package. All right. Now, before going any further, well, I probably need to just say this without the preface. A lot of what I'll be doing in this tutorial series on plots.jl is based off of my own learning experience with Corey Schaefer's channel on matplotlib tutorials for Python. In particular, for this video, I'll be looking at his part 1 video and his same exact data set, which I'll provide in the description down below. So this data set was taken from a Stack Overflow survey of developers, so Python developers, general developers, JavaScript developers. So we have age data here, and then we have their median salary for each of those ages. So I'm going to go ahead and focus now on just Python and general developers and just copy this data here. Copy that. Go back to VS Code. I've already typed using plots, and now I will just put in this data here. Now, suppose I want to plot the median salary of a general developer versus their age. So for 25-year-olds, the median salary was $38,000. This was probably 4 years ago now. It's been a while. For 26-year-olds, $42,000, so forth and so on. Suppose we want to visualize this. Well, now that we've imported the plots package, we can just easily visualize this by typing plot and then pass in our x values, so dev x, and then pass in our y values, dev y. I'm going to go ahead and save that and run it. So this takes a moment the first time that you call it. Taking a little bit longer, but it's okay. This is typical of running Julia in VS Code. The first time that you start an environment in Julia, it's going to take a little while. And there he goes. it's a little small. I don't like that, but I know a fix. And some of you might experience this in VS Code. It's okay. Just change the DPI to be something like 7,000. Run it again. And we see that we get a decent plot now. Okay. Now, this is already, it looks nice, right? Like we see this nice curve. We have the ages down here, though our plot is not descriptive of that. We have our salary and scientific notation, a legend that just pops up, but maybe we want to change the theme. So the theme is basically setting the background and the way that the plot appears to you. So if I just do theme and then colon, which indicates I'm going to type a Julia symbol, I can do something that maybe some of you are familiar with, such as Ggplot. 2, save that, run it, and let's see what happens now. We can see now that we have a gray background, right? So this is kind of nice, and I appreciate this. It's an easy way to change the theme, and I will give a list of my preferred themes in the description below, as well as a link to all of the themes that you can access using Plots.jl. So yes, we have a nice looking plot, but we haven't labeled anything. It's really hard to convey any information about this graph, this line chart, with the way it is. So we should probably add X labels and Y labels. So we can do this using the plot exclamation mark, or the bang operator, as some people call it, function. So think of it like this. When you call plot the first time, it creates a figure. And then you can call plot again with an exclamation mark to modify that figure. So for example, if I wanted to change the X label to developer age, like that, save it, and then run it, I can see now the developer age pops up on my figure. If I wanted to slowly increment this and add a Y label, I can add now Y label, median, developer, salaries, and this is USD. Save that and then run it. Okay. Did I run it? No, I didn't. Okay, there it goes. So I see now that I have median developer salaries on the y-axis, developer age. It's a little bit more informative, which is really important. If you're going to, let me change some things with my sizes here, maybe scoot this over. I want to make it really easy for you guys to see. Move my face down there. You see that there's information. So when you're conveying information to others, you want your figures, your plots, to convey the same thing that you're looking at, right? That made no sense. I'm sorry for the jumbled words. It's a late night. I'm just trying to get this video out to you. What else are we missing? Oh, title. Maybe we want to add a title. So we can do plot, exclamation mark, and do title. And then give it the string, well, what do I want to call it? Developer salaries, maybe. I don't know. Save that, run it. And then we now have a title. So these are really easy ways to add the labels for our x-axis, our y-axis, and our title. But the legend is still non-informative, right? I just see Y1. So how can we fix this? Well, in our original plot function, which comes from Plots.jl, we can add another keyword. We can say label equals to gen developer salaries or something like that. And just like in Python, we can stack these arguments of our function and make it nice and easy to read. So all stacked with the label of that, save it, and then let's give it a run. And then we now see that our trend line here has a appropriate legend, Gen developer salaries. So maybe I should get rid of, make it a little bit shorter and just say developer salaries. Save it and then run it. Okay. Now we can also do this by including all of these adjustments to our canvas created by Plot inside of that function. So let me just go ahead and delete these changes and add those keywords into my original function. So for example, X label equal to developer age, comma, Y label equal to median salaries, USD, and then title equal to developer salaries. Save that. Notice all the commas, everything's good. Run it. And then the same plot appears. Okay. Now, for those of you that didn't have a small figure appear in VS Code, you might not have to type DPI. This is for those of you that had trouble with a small figure. This is how you fix it. Just set your DPI equal to 7,000, 6,000, and it will appear better. Okay. All right. So this is a good line chart. Super easy to make. I like it. Now, suppose we wanted to maybe change the color. Well, in the description below, you will see a link to the named colors in Julia. So these are our whites, these are our reds, oranges, yellows, greens, all of these. Now we can pass these into our plot function with the keyword color by either giving it an assignment of a string or a symbol. And recall, symbols are Julia variables that start with a colon. So for example, I like magenta. So if I go back to my plot and I say color equals colon magenta, put that comma there, save it, run it. I see now that the color is magenta. Okay. What if I wanted to change the size? What if I wanted this line to be thicker? Well, again, in the description below, I'll provide a link to the attributes of plot. In particular, there is something called line width. So if I want to make this line fatter, I'll specify a specific line width. So if I come back to my plot function, line width, I forget the scaling on this. Maybe I'll just put 8 and see what happens. Save it, run it. You can see that it's really fat. Maybe that's a little bit too fat. Maybe I'll do 3. Save that, run it. All right, I like this. This looks pretty nice. Maybe I want to add another feature. For example, the transparency, like how see-through is this line? I can add something called alpha. And this is a real value or floating point value between 0 and 1. And it just specifies how intense the colors are on your figure. So if I do like 0.5, save that and run it, you can see that it's a little bit lighter. Okay. What else can I add? Maybe I want to change the styling of the line. Maybe I want to have like dashes or dots. Again, and as always, I'll give links to these properties down below. Line style right here, we have these options. Okay, so maybe I want a dashed line. I can pass it the symbol dash. Going back to my plot, line style equals the symbol dash. Put my comment in, save it, and then run it. And now I see a dashed line. That's a bunch of attributes, but it makes a decent looking plot or figure. And I think it's relatively straightforward, especially if you're familiar with a programming language like Python and Matplotlib. You add your basics, which are your X values and your Y values, which are the same length arrays. And then you start modifying the figure that you make with keywords. Now, what if we wanted to add this other data? We've currently just looked at median developer salaries. These are general developers. What about if we wanted to add Python developer salaries? Well, first off, I need to point out that the Python developer ages are the same as the developer ages. So I really don't need this data. I can just copy the general developer ages. So maybe I'll get rid of that there. And again, I will have a link to Corey Schaefer's video on using this data and plotting it in Python, and I encourage you to go watch it. Okay, so these are the ages. Back to Julia, by the way. These are the ages, and these are the Python median developer salaries. So maybe I want to plot those as well as a line chart. Well, if you caught on to the idea before of making a figure and then changing it using the bang or the exclamation point functions, I can do plot bang or exclamation mark, throw in my dev x, okay, and then next throw in my pi dev y, okay. So if I save that and run it, let's see what happens. So here I see the other line chart, the other trend, right? As developer age gets older, the median salaries increase. Now, I don't really like the way that this is looking. It's not a color that I favor, so maybe I'll change the color to something like the symbol light sea green. And then run it after saving it. I see the colors changed. And then maybe I need to give it, I definitely need to give it a label. Notice that I don't have to call X label and Y label again. These were made in the first plot. So when I plot over that figure, those attributes of that figure are already set. I don't have to do that again. It's really important to note. But I do have to set the legend label because that wasn't set before. So I will give this a label of Python dev salaries, and save that and run it. And then we see we have a nice legend there telling us exactly what's going on. Maybe I want to specify a different line width equal to 3.5 maybe this time. Maybe an alpha equal to 0.7. And then line style equal to, I'll just look up a random one right now. Let's see. Line style dot maybe. All right, let's see what that does. Line style colon dot. Save it and run it. Nice. Because the dots are a little small, maybe I want to make the line width bigger, maybe like 6.5. Save it and run it, and let's see. Nice. Maybe that color isn't showing enough. Or maybe I can change my theme up here to be dark. Let's see what happens when I do that. Save it and run it. Nice. I like that. To me, that's pretty. Okay. Now, notice that I've been using symbols the whole time. I could have used strings. So, for example, if I got rid of the colon here and I typed double quotes, like that. The color should, I'm hoping, be the same. And it is, no errors. So you can use symbols or you can use strings for the colors and the line style. Okay. Now, if you're doing this on your own, I encourage you to play around with this and go to the link with the snippets of data from Corey Schaefer's GitHub account. And then maybe like, I'll copy the JavaScript data and you do the same. Go to VS Code and then paste that data in and overlay it with the data that I have. Okay. I think that that would be a useful exercise for you to do. And I would probably tell my students to do the same thing. And I'll just give you a hint that you can just do the same ages. What was it called? JS dev Y. JS dev Y. Save it, run it. And then I see this little squiggly green line for JavaScript. Hopefully you know by now that you should give it a label. Like that or something. And then you experiment with it. Again, all of the links for this will be down below. Okay, so that will be the end of the first video in this series, and I hope that you enjoyed it. The links for everything will be down below. If you would like for me to do this again in a Jupyter notebook, let me know. If you would prefer Jupyter over VS Code for other tutorials, let me know. I can't really change, or I don't want to change for this series what editor I use, but for my other series, I can use whichever one you want. And again, if you like this, please give me a like and subscribe down below. And I hope that you visit for the next video I'll be posting, actually probably tonight. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.